This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We continue in the Chaim of the Rosh. We're up to Ois Lamed Daled. The Rosh says, Toiv v'yashar lecha. It is good and straight and correct for you, lahamid be'einecha pu'laisecha tovim, to diminish, to lower in your eyes your good actions, ulahagdil be'einecha pisha'echa, and to magnify one's sins. So what does this mean? That not only is it good to diminish one's good deeds in their eyes, but it's also yashar to. It's also just to. The reason it's just to, says Rav Goldberg, is a person is biased, a person is prejudiced toward himself, and naturally a person would magnify and elevate his good deeds, and therefore not only is it good to do this, it's also just, because otherwise one will have a out of proportion perception of one's good deeds. The Gra in Mishlei writes in Parak Tes Ois Ches that a Chacham wants a friend. This way the friend will give rebuke, but not only give rebuke, but will also the friend will also magnify. The friend will magnify the averos that a person did. So that's another reason to offer, to have a good friend. 1 second, I lost Okay, so that's an important thing, that a person should make small a person's mitzvos. Rabbi Yoina in the Shari Tshuva and Shar Aleph Ois Chav Daled writes, there are many milos of hachna. The highest level of hachna is not to give credit to oneself, but ki yiktan hakol be'inav, keneged mashu chai ba'avodas Hashem, that a person's good deeds should be small in one's eyes vis-a-vis what he's obligated to do. And therefore a person should serve Hashem modestly and not seek kavod for his good deeds and not seek any tiferes for his actions. Interesting, Rav Goldberg brings a story about Rav Isser Zalman Meltzer. Rav Isser Zalman Meltzer was a goyin hagoyinim, both in Torah and in the way he worked on midos. And one of his talmidim report that one time in Chol Hamoed, Rav Isser Zalman asked for a pen. And the Talmud thought maybe Rav Isser Zalman thought he forgot it was Chol Hamoed. Basically, Rav Isser Zalman said, I didn't forget it's Chol Hamoed. I know it's Chol Hamoed, but it's for me it's pikuach nefesh. I need a pen. And he explained afterwards that very often many people come to visit him on Chol Hamoed. And as is human nature, sometimes a person passes judgment on others, and he sometimes will think about the other person's deficiency, and therefore he prepares for himself a paper that says Einecha lenoichach yabitu v'yafapecha yashir negdecha. Basically, look at your own faults before you see someone else's faults, and that would remind him before he passes judgment on someone else. He would first be critical of himself. In other words, and that would humble him and not pass judgment. And he forgot to prepare this piece of paper, and therefore for him writing this on the piece of paper, this message that basically look at yourself, would help him keep humble, and it was begeder pikuach nefesh. Then Rav Goldberg is mitzayin the Rabbeinu Yoina and the Shari Tshuva that one of the ingredients of tshuva is da'aga, worry, being concerned maybe a person is falling short in his obligation of tshuva, in the tsar and the bitterness and the fasting and in all the various responsibilities that a person may have in the realm of tshuva. So it is good and it is yashar to minimize one's good deeds in their own eyes, and on the other hand, to magnify one's averos, ulaharbois chazdei barecha, and to magnify the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. meaning one should never think that, yeah, the Rebbeinu Shem owes me a lot, or I do so many good deeds, and Hashem's kindness to me is okay, basically commensurate with my good actions. But in a person's mind, a person should feel that the kindness Hashem showers him with is overwhelming, is well beyond and above what a person truly deserves. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, in his parish on the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh, Hasam Orchosav, he quotes Maseches Derech Eretz Zuta, Parak Beis, where it says, "V'al toimar mishali hetivoisi." A person shouldn't think, yeah, the kindness Hashem did is from my good deeds. He owes it to me. And this is what Yaakov Avinu says in this week's parasha, "Katointi mikol hachasadim u'mikol ha'emes." He did not feel that he's roy for the chasadim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbeinu Yoina writes in Shari Tshuva Shar Gimel Ois Yud Zayin that one of the important mailos that are given over in what is called the Mitzvos Aseh is the maila of remembering the Chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and being mizboinen on it, like it says V'zacharta es kol hadarach, and it says V'yadata im levavecha ki kasher yiyaser ishes benoi Hashem leikecha miyasreka. David says V'yizboinenu chazdei Hashem. And Rabbeinu Yonah likewise writes in Shardad Ois Yud Gimel that whatever difficulties and troubles a person has in life, one should not say, well, I have much more troubles than I deserve. One should feel and one should say that whatever difficulties a person has, it is much less than what they deserve mitzad their averos and mitzad their deficiency. In other words, whatever difficulty a person has in life, a person should think, you know what, they're getting off easy. Really, if they would get what they deserve, it could be a lot worse. And then the Rosh ends off this line, a very... the Rosh says, you should magnify the Chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a person. In other words, one should elevate it, that it's much more than a person deserves, and whatever difficulties are much less than they deserve. V'yotzercha mibaten, from the one who fashioned you in the womb of your mother, v'noisin achlecha be'itay, and from the one who gives you your food at the right time. And if a person does these three things, namely, to diminish in one's eyes your masim tovim, and increase and magnify the severity of one's sins, and to magnify the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when a person realizes that whatever mitzvos the person did are basically measly, and the tremendous chesed Hashem does for a person, and how many averos we've committed, says the Rosh, don't serve Hashem on condition to receive reward in your performance of one's mitzvahs. Now, what's the connection? Why, after these three pieces of advice of diminishing one's good deeds in one's eyes, and magnifying one's sins, and magnifying the chesed of Hashem, this, it seems, will cause a person to avoid serving Hashem on condition to get reward. You see, if every mitzvah we do is amazing in our eyes, and we feel we're very deserving of reward because of it, that will motivate us to serve Hashem on condition to get reward. But if we do not magnify the good deeds that we did, and whatever chesed Hashem does for us, we feel is more than we deserve, so we realize that whatever goodness we have in this world, it's not because we did mitzvahs, it's just from the chesed of Hashem. This will help us avoid serving Him on condition to receive reward. Okay, so we'll continue here tomorrow. At least for this week, we'll stick with this schedule, and we'll see if it works. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful night. Kol Tov.
Okay, thank you.
Kol Tov, good night. Bye-bye.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.